Lord Kaido! Lord Kaido!
What?
It's an emergency, sir. You have to come at once.
Can't you see I'm drunk?
Yes, my lord, but, you see, you're kind of always drunk, so, you gotta have to clarify. Are you a happy drunk? Are you a sad drunk?
I'm a tired drunk. I haven't slept in like 6 days. You know all the crap I've had to deal with? Caesar's gone, Jack is probably dead, Doflamingo got punched in the face by a monkey, I'm out of artificial devil fruits, and I'm down to my last bottle of sake. So you tell me what is so damn important that I need to pay attention to it.
Well, it's the sea cow, sir.
It's too early for this shit. Alright, I'll take it. I guess we have a history together. That was back before I got my chin done.
Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and welcome back to the Reverie arc, part number 3! The action is really picking up now, seriously. Even if we're only gonna get like 10 chapters or less of Reverie, if this is where we're already at, only 3 chapters in, you better well just check yourself into the hospital now, because you're probably gonna have a freaking heart attack at some point. We're getting into fan fiction territory. Like, you ever read, like, One Piece spoilers, and you're sitting there and you're like, oh, there's no way that's a real spoiler. It's just not gonna happen. Those two characters interacting, or these group of characters interacting, that would never happen. Oh no, it's happening. So, yeah, just get set for that. I mean, wow. And if you were sitting on your hands for the entire week, waiting to see about this thing, yeah, don't get yourself all worked up for that, because of all the things we're gonna find out in Reverie and all the interactions we're going to get and the cool things we're gonna discuss, the whole hat thing from the last chapter, Oda's probably gonna wait a little while to reveal that. So, you know, it was wishful thinking, though. What are you gonna do? Alright, so let's get right into it. Chapter 907, The Empty Throne. Ooh, ominous. Alright, so we start off with the cover page, and of course we have Orlumbus again, and he's setting sail with his stolen fleet as the entire army of the Standing Kingdom is shooting at him from the shore. I just kind of realized that he probably took the majority of their navy, so they really can't chase after them, so they're just like, oh, what are you doing? You're leaving us without a navy! Our entire kingdom is at freaking risk of being invaded now! And Orlumbus is just in the distance like, it's been fun, guys! I'm gonna take all my ships and sail out to sea in the name of that straw-hatted boy whom I just met like 2 weeks ago. Onward! Right, and after this arc is over, we're done with the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. I don't know how many more chapters of Orlumbus's little arc there's going to be. Probably not very many, maybe like 1 or 2. Hell, this could be it. And then after that, we're probably just gonna go back to normal cover pages for a while of like, here's Nami playing poker with a bunch of geese or something. I don't know. Maybe a color page thrown in there every now and then, it'll look cool, but I wonder what the next serial is going to be, the next cover serial. I'm pumped. I'm hoping it's the misadventures of Caesar Clown as he journeys the new world. I think that would be an interesting premise for a cover serial. But anyway, let's get into the chapter. We start off at Whole Cake Island, and that's the thing that you have to understand here that Oda has to balance. I don't think there's ever been a point in the story before where the previous enemy that the Straw Hats had just faced is now directly pursuing them into the next arc. You know, like, obviously we're going to see an interaction with Lucci and Luffy again, most likely. Obviously we're going to probably see an interaction with, like, maybe Crocodile and Luffy again at some point. But my point is, like, right after Alabasta, it wasn't like Crocodile, you know, he breaks free of the Marines and chases the Straw Hats to Skypiea. You know, right after Skypiea, Eneru goes to the moon. He's not chasing them to Water 7. Oh, I'm sorry, right after Skypiea was Long Ring Longland, but we don't talk about Long Ring Longland. But, yeah, that's my point. But here, you have a Yonko, and she is pissed off, and she is like, you know what? I'm gonna pursue them, because it's gonna make me look bad if I get they invaded my territory, and then they made me look like an idiot, and then they just leave, and I never do anything about it. So, she is actually on the phone, on the Den Den Mushi, on Snail, with Kaido of the Beast. Do you see what I'm saying? If you would have came up to me and said, yeah, the next chapter of One Piece, it starts off with Big Mom and Kaido exchanging a talk just like they were old buddies, because they kinda were, I'd be sitting there like, dude, come on, really? Like, that's, really? It just seems out of place. This is a Reverie arc, not about that. So... anyway, yeah, to basically break down this conversation, Big Mom is calling up Kaido because back during the tea party, Luffy let it slip that, you know, after I take you down, I'm going to take down Kaido. So that kind of cued her up on where the Straw Hats were going to go next. They were going to go to Kaido's territory, Wano specifically. And remember that scene where Big Mom was like, Kaido, you have no hope of defeating that thing. Implying, I originally assumed, oh, Big Mom and Kaido must have duked it out at a point in the past, you know, and Kaido was just this monster that maybe even she couldn't really fathom or even defeat. But no, that wasn't actually the case. I mean, maybe they had an interaction like that at some point in the past, but the main thing to take away here is that Big Mom and Kaido used to work together. They were buddies back in the day, and we find out later that they were kind of the rulers of the era before Roger came along. Because, remember, and I'll get into this later when we actually discuss this. It's a scene with Garp and all the vice admirals chilling out having a nice little ramen dinner, but I'll discuss that then. But Roger was only like in his 50s when he was executed, and I think it was sometime probably in his early to mid 20s when he really rose to prominence as like this really big pirate. He wasn't quite the pirate king yet, but he was rising to prominence at that age. Maybe closer to Luffy's age, maybe late teens, early 20s, something like that. But at the time when Roger was a rookie, who were the rulers of the sea? It wasn't just like it was vacant. It wasn't like Roger, you know, came up with the concept of piracy. Like, you know what? I think I'm going to grab me a straw hat, head out to sea, and I'm gonna break the laws of the world government. And everyone's like, oh my God, Roger, you're such a revolutionary. Not that kind of revolutionary, but you know what I mean? No, pirates have been around for a while before Roger. So yeah, the people that ruled that era were Big Mom and Kaido. This also implies that Kaido is around the same age as Big Mom. So maybe like in their 60s. But anyway, yeah, so she calls up Kaido and she's like, hey, look, just letting you know, the Straw Hats are heading your way. You touch them, I will personally kill you because I need to take revenge on them, all right? You leave them alone. So basically just calling up Kaido like you leave your paws off them. And Kaido's response to that is like, oh, no, they're the ones that I have the freaking vendetta against them before they had one against you or you had one against them. They took out my Smile Factory, they took out Doflamingo, they squanched my freaking supply of artificial devil fruits. If they show up in my territory, I'm gonna pound them into freaking dirt. And so that's where the argument arises, where they're like, you know, well, if you try it, I'm gonna be the one to kill you. It's like, well, you could try, you know, so that's the argument they're having, and the end of this, we don't really get to see it. All we have is Big Mom stating, you know, let's just get along, just like in the old days, as she sticks out her tongue. Why does she have to stick out her tongue so much? It just doesn't seem practical. You ever stick out your tongue a lot while you're talking to someone on the phone? Like, let's get along, that's not old times. You wouldn't be able to hear them. It just doesn't make sense. I guess it just makes her look crazy. Also, we get a look at not only Mama's Den Den Mushi, but also Kaido's with the Fu Manchu whiskers. So that's pretty funny. Okay, so yeah, I have no idea where this is going because they didn't really come to an agreement here. They didn't really come to an agreement where it's like, oh, okay, you old bat, I guess we'll get along just for this one time. Because Big Mom brings up a life debt that Kaido owes her. So back in the day, maybe it was Big Mom that you know, helped Kaido get his pirate legs. Maybe Big Mom is maybe a little older than Kaido, and she was the one that, you know, rose him to prominence and they became partners or something like that. Maybe Kaido used to work under Big Mom until, you know, he became like the powerhouse that we know now. Or maybe Big Mom straight up saved his life at some point because she mentions, you know, this is a lifelong debt. And Kaido's like, oh, that happened a long time ago. So maybe like 30, 40 years ago she's talking about, but she's like, it's a lifelong lifelong debt, and you swore it. Do not touch them until what? Until I get there? Is she gonna go after them, or is she just gonna be like, you know, when they go to your territory, let them leave, and then after they leave, I'll be the one to take care of them? I don't know which angle she's going with this, but we don't really get a conclusion to this one way or the other. If Kaido agrees, or if they're gonna have this big epic battle, because I always assume, like, you know, Big Mom might go to Wano and then have an altercation with Kaido, and then they start brawling, and then the Straw Hats manage to escape while that's going on. So we'll see where this goes, but from just this altercation, and we know they have a history together, it's pretty shocking, alright? So, Now, moving back over to Marineford, we actually see a scene where a bunch of the Marines have been listening into this entire conversation, because Big Mom and Kaido have probably, one of them, or probably both of them, have been bugged, and we remember we have the black transponder snail, which allows to listen to wiretapping, but they don't even, I was gonna bring up, like, why don't Yonko have white Den Den Mushi, the ones that can block wiretapping, but it's stated, you know what, they don't even care if anybody overhears them. They do not care if the Marines overhear their idea, their plans to join up or anything like that. So, as you could probably imagine, kind of the same way that during, right before the War of the Best, when it was looking like Shanks and Kaido were just going to have an altercation, not a team-up, just an altercation, that was huge. That was like, oh man, what are we gonna do? You know, because you can't have more than one Yonko work together. Because if you saw what Whitebeard was capable of, just Whitebeard by himself versus most of the Marines, and he was able to do that much damage. So can you imagine if you had, like, if all four Yonko figured out a way to work together, the Marines would get decimated in probably less than a week. You know? Like, the pirates could rule the Yonko could rule the entire world. It's just they're never gonna get along that way. But the sheer amount of power they express, they could. But that's like, we're talking all four of them. That's never going to happen. But what could happen is an alliance just between two of them. And the Marines are aware that Big Mom and Kaido used to work together back in the day. So this makes them even more afraid, because they're like, okay, well, this happened before, they have a history, if they decide to get the band back together, this is not good. And we see a bunch of Marines there. We see the member, I think he's a Commodore from G5, his name starts with a Y, I think it's like Yamegara or whatever, I forget it. Momonga's there, awesome. We see Doberman, not to be confused with Dalmatian, because there just happen to be two Vice Admirals named after dogs, only one of which actually has the zone power of a dog. But yeah, Doberman, he's the guy with all the scars on his face. He was there for the Buster call. Yeah, they're listening in. We have Sakazuki there. We have Kizaru there. And Kizaru actually steps up and he's like, all right, well, do you want me to go? Because they say, okay, if the only people in the entire Marines that we have under our employ that could take down or you know, deal with a threat of this magnitude, deal with like a direct threat from a Yonko, are the Admirals or the Warlords. All right, and now let me back up a little bit here, because when he says warlords, you're talking about that in the plural sense, right? You're not just talking about sending Boa Hancock to deal with Big Mom, right? Because that's not gonna go down. You're not talking about just sending Buggy. Oh no, wait. Buggy might actually be able to handle that. Okay, if they send Buggy, they would be okay. But you know what I mean? Like, back when Moria was a member of the Warlords, he got his ass kicked by Kaido beforehand. So when they say Warlords, I think it's implying maybe the Warlords more than one, or possibly the Warlords as an entire group. And even getting the Warlords to all work together, even when they were at their height of power, when Dofi was there, and Moria was there, and you had Crocodile as well, like, when they were, like, in that generation. That's going to be difficult to even get them to work together, because they were there at the war, but they really weren't doing any like collaboration attacks, you know? They were just kind of like doing their own separate thing. But yeah, I mean, if you get all their powers together, they might be able to deal with a Yonko, sure. Same thing with the Admirals, like, if it's a straight-up fight between Kizaru and Kaido, or Kizaru and Big Mom, like, I'm sorry, I kind of have to give the edge there to the Yonko. Am I the only one that thinks that? Like, yeah, Admirals are pretty strong, but it's kind of been hammered in over and over again that the Yonko are, like, straight-up monsters. You know, they are just beyond, like, and that whole thing with Kaido, it was like, if it's one-on-one, Kaido wins automatically. So, I mean, if it's gonna be Kizaru directly versus Kaido, I gotta give the edge to Kaido. I just have to. Yeah, now if he was talking about how you get all the admirals together, Kizaru, Fujitora, Green Bull versus one Yonko, okay, I could see that being more evened out, and I could see the admirals possibly winning there. But, yeah, if we're just talking one-on-one fights, there's no way. A Yonko is just stronger than any singular warlord. Even Mihawk, and I know I kind of jerk off Mihawk a lot, like he's this... I think he's, like, one of the strongest characters in the entire series, but even if we're talking Mihawk, strongest swordsman in the world versus Kaido one-on-one, I still gotta give the handle to Kaido there. I mean, the guy is built like a freaking mountain. I mean, what can you say? So, yeah, Kizaru's talking to Sakazuki. He's like, okay, should I head to Wano? Because that's Kaido's territory, and Big Mom's talking about going to Wano. And Sakazuki's like, oh, hold it. Because, number one, the world government does not have an alliance with Wano. They're outside of our jurisdiction. I guess in order to have protection of the Marines, you have to be allied with the world government, or else they don't bother. And the other thing is something Kizaru brings up. He says, well, yeah, they also have the samurai. You know, this supreme fighting force of Wano that protects the country. We don't exactly know how strong all those samurai are together. They might actually be able to handle it. So the Marines are probably not going to get involved during the Wano arc all that much. I would still like to see Smoker and Tashigi breaking protocol and maybe disguising themselves and just sneaking into Wano. Just because, you know, you have Tashigi, she's a sword nerd, and this is probably going to be a very Zoro-centric arc. We might maybe get some backstory with Koshiro, who is Zoro's teacher, maybe something with Kuina, I don't know. I really want Tashigi to be there. Smoker really not so much, but wherever Tashigi goes, Smoker is kind of obligated to go first, so you can't have one without the other. So, yeah, I would like Smoker and Tashigi to be like, alright, I know we have no business in Wano, but we need to sneak in and see what's going on, and then they just, like, they dock the ship on the shore, and they disguise themselves, and they go into the country, and then we at least have them during the arc. I'd be fine with that. Alright. Now, we cut over back to the red port, where is, you know, the location at the bottom of the red line where you go up to Mjosgard, where you see Garp and a bunch of the vice admirals. You have Hina there, you had LaCroix there, who is the giant, and Strawberry's there, and you also have Full Body and Django, who are members of Hina's crew there, and you also have, I love this, Oda, you're awesome. Okay, so we have Vice Admiral Brown Pig, as well as Vice Admiral Pink Rabbit. If you don't know who these characters are, they are actually fan inventions. A while back, I think it was right after the time skip when we didn't know who the new admirals were yet, a fan sent in some, like, their own designs of admirals or their own concepts for admirals, at least the names. Like, oh, I think the new admirals should be Pink Rabbit and Brown Pig, based off of, like, the naming scheme we had. Like, so the original three admirals were Blue Pheasant, Red Dog, and Yellow Monkey. And Oda was like, well, he already had designs for Green Bull and Fujitora, but he still liked them, so he drew concept art for Gion, who is Pink Rabbit, and then, I think it's Takon, or something like that. Takai is the name of, the real name of Brown Pig. I forget his actual name. But he drew concept arts of them, and then later on, they actually showed up during Film Gold as cameos, and then now, here we are, they are now canon in the One Piece manga. There is Vice Admiral Brown Pig discussing things with Garp, and we see Vice Admiral Pink Rabbit in the background kind of chastising Garp there as well. So, yeah, I love the designs of these characters. Chadon has sort of like an old school, like, rocker vibe with the hair, kind of gangster a little bit too. It was stated that he's actually asked out Gion 100 times and was turned down every time. I wonder why. Why wouldn't you want to get with this, girls? But then you have Gion, who is, of course, super cute, and she has big boobs, so she's awesome automatically. Also, another reason why she's awesome, she has a spider tattoo on her leg, so I guess she's a member of the Phantom Troop. Okay, fine, I could deal with that, because that is also awesome. Let's just have her permeate all the different fandoms. Next week, she's slated to appear in Dr. Stone, and the week after that, she's going to be in Black Clover, so keep an eye out for Momosagi in the future. Chaton maybe maybe not so much. But yeah, they're having a discussion basically about the situation with the Yonko, and also a situation about the era that existed before Roger, because remember, Garp is a member of the old guard here. Garp, I think he's a vice admiral still officially, but only just kind of in titles. You know, he's not really going around doing a lot of vice admiral stuff like the other ones are. But the people respect him because, well, it's stated through marine lore, through the unbiased history of the world, that Garp was the one that brought in Roger, and so now he's a marine hero. Garp didn't actually bring in Roger. Roger turned himself in because he had this illness, but that's the story you gotta peddle to the public, and that's another reason why Garp, they managed to keep him around still, and he just wanted to retire, because, you know, it inspires new Marines coming up. It's like, oh yes, you will be trained by the hero himself, Garp the Fist. So he'll teach you his epic fisting technique, but only if you're worthy. Or at least, that's what we thought was the case. This chapter kind of punches a hole in that as well. It gets kind of fisted a little bit too. We always assumed Garp was the hero because of Roger, but now Hina is bringing up something else. She says, hey, Garp-kun, she calls him Garp-kun, you are revealed, I mean, you were known as the hero of the Marines because of, and then she trails off, and then Garp picks it up and kind of interrupts her and says, oh, you're talking about Rocks. I'm surprised that you've heard of him, Hina, especially since you're so young. Okay, so first off, a little bit of a translation, possible flub. Because of the L's and R's thing in Japan, it might not be rocks, it might also be locks. So, with that being the case, we have no idea what this is referring to. If rocks or locks is a person or a crew, we don't know. However, it seems to imply that whole title that Garp got, not the Fist, that was from something else, but the whole hero of the Marines, it might have actually started before Roger, during this time when Garp went up against a pirate or a pirate crew by the name of Rocks or Locks. And like I said, we have no idea. This has never been mentioned before, so we have no, I can't really go into more detail with that. But Garp certainly clarifies, you know, there's no doubt that before Roger came along, it was their era, but that was more than 40 years ago. Nevertheless, the past is the past. Okay, so if I'm understanding the chronological implications here, the timeline, Rocks was the one that came first, right? Like, it was his era, like, 40, 50 years ago. That was the era of the Rocks, all right? And then, right after his era, you had Big Mom and Kaido making waves, because if we're talking like 40 plus years ago, Big Mom and Kaido would have probably only been like in their 20s or something like that. Maybe they could have been causing, you know, uproars and stuff, but, and Big Mom started when she was really young, obviously. She had like a 500 million berry bounty when she was like 9. But anyway, so after the Rocks thing, though, you know, between 20 and 40 years ago, you had the era of Big Mom and Kaido. They ruled the seas. That would make sense. And then after that, you had Roger. Okay? I think that's the implication going on here. It's kind of a lot to take in. I gotta hand it to you. That editor of One Piece was totally legit when he was saying, you know, there's gonna be a lot of stuff crammed in these Reverie chapters. You may wanna go back and reread them a few times. Because at the beginning of this chapter, we get the bombshell, Kaido and Big Mom used to work together back in the day, and it was their era before Roger. But now, Garp name drops somebody else that we've never even heard of before. Oh no, it was Rocks' era back in the day. So I guess it went Rocks, Big Mom, Kaido, and then Roger, and now. So, okay, let's go with that. Hina expands upon this a little bit. By the way, let's just take a moment to appreciate Hina and her awesomeness. Okay. Hina also goes on to say that they have lost their captain, but their power is still growing. What do you mean they've lost their captain? Rocks' pirate crew has lost their captain? Because who else has lost their captain? Big Mom and Kaido, they're still around, so what do you mean by they've lost their captain? That was something that confused me. And then Garp continues in saying, there's no use worrying about it. If they made a comeback, it would be pretty bad, but it would be beyond our imagination to do anything about it. So basically, I think he's still talking about the Rocks thing, right? Or maybe he is talking about Big Mom or Kaido's comeback. See, this is the thing. We're talking about, like, two things going on at the same time here. But he's basically saying, like, yeah, if this group got back together, there's really no use worrying about it, because even with the full power of the Marines, we would be helpless before them. So, take that whatever you will, if he was indicating the Big Mom Kaido team up, or he was talking about the Rock's comeback. I don't know, but yeah, go with that. Now, we cut back up to Mjosgard, and by the way, I just wanted to bring it up really quick, but the castle is actually called Pangea Castle. I don't remember if the version that I was reading last week included that, because I was reading, I think, the Kiss manga version last week, and then I don't think it said Pangea Castle, but I went back to it later and it did say that. Maybe it was edited, maybe it was updated, or maybe I just didn't notice it when I was reading the chapter. I don't know. But yeah, the name of the actual castle is just Pangea Castle. Pangea, of course, being the supercontinent that once existed before the time that all our continents, broke apart through to, like, continental drift and plate tectonics and all that bullshit. It also forms the names of Acacia's full course menu in Toriko, so the more you know there. But we cut back up to there. We're now in the castle proper, in the throne room, where the empty throne, the eponymous empty throne that the chapter got its name out of, is located. Now, last time when we saw that mysterious figure walking in that icy, freezer with the straw hat, that figure was wearing a pretty tall crown. So I was thinking, like, okay, is it possible that there is, like, a supreme leader or a king amongst the Tenryubito? And here's the thing. In this chapter, we find out there isn't, but there totally could be. Let me explain. So you have the empty throne here, and it's stated that the empty throne is just supposed to be that. No person is actually allowed to sit on the throne because the world government doesn't actually have a set king or just a straight up one ruler, okay? It is divided, it's run by committee, the Gorosei. They're the ones that actually rule over everything, and because this is Stelly's first time arriving at Reverie, he has to take a sword and he has to plant it down in order to pledge his loyalty to the world government and to the empty throne. So if you actually get a good view of the empty throne here, it's actually divided up into 3 different tiers, or like levels. The first tier on the bottom, you see a bunch of swords and things stabbed into the ground. These are the swords that the current kings of the world, when they arrive at Reverie for the first time, have to pledge their loyalty to the world government. They have to impale a weapon in there to mimic what the 20 kings did back during the founding of the world government. The next tier up is just empty. It's the stairwell leading to the throne, and then the final tier is the throne itself. And in front of that, there are 20 weapons, mostly swords and axes, plunged into the ground directly in front of the throne. And those are the weapons that were put in there by the original 20 kings. So they seem to be getting on, and they're rusting, and they're like covered in moss and things, because probably no one has touched these things in like 800 years or something. And Stelly's looking upon it, and he kind of jokes like, I want to sit on it. Well, it's not really a joke, but he's like, I want to sit on it. And the person next to him is like, oh, Stelly, you can't even joke about that. Don't you understand the symbolism of this throne? The fact that it's empty is a good thing, because it means that all of these kings are equal. And all Stelly is hearing is just blah, 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 king, blah, 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 sit on throne, blah, 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 king in the world. Like, I want it, please. Oh, please have him be an idiot and sit on that throne and be just completely stabbed from 17 different directions by the palace guards. That would be amazing. And also, I mean, because it's a throne and it's very symbolic of he who sits here rules the world and everything, and there's a bunch of weapons around it, my mind immediately went to Game of Thrones, because I'm a fan. I was actually kind of disappointed a little bit, though, because when I was reading the chapter spoilers for this yesterday, I didn't get to see a picture of the empty throne, just a description of it, and I think the description was like, there's a throne, and there's a bunch of weapons around it. In my mind, it immediately went to the Iron Throne, like it was literally going to look like the Iron Throne. Now, I don't know if Oda is a fan of Game of Thrones. He might be. I know Isayama is, who's the mangaka of Attack on Titan, because he's actually had a few cast members from Game of Thrones appear in Titan form in Attack on Titan, so that was pretty neat. So, yeah, I mean, people are gonna mention it, and I would love, if I had better animation skills, I would love to make like a One Piece Game of Thrones style intro, but I just lack the talents there. I was thinking of what I could do, like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna make Shirahoshi Daenerys, and Ned Stark can be played by Dalton, and Stelly was set to play Joffrey. Those all make make a lot of sense if you've actually read the books or watched the show. But unfortunately, I just didn't have time or the skill to do something like that. But you could just imagine it, like. Okay, let's move on. All right, so yeah, there's a throne there, and it's symbolic. No one's allowed to sit on it. That's the point. However, this is the world government we're talking about here, okay? So would it surprise you in the slightest? My neighbor is cutting down a tree, like literally just cutting down a tree. So just if you can hear a buzzsaw or a chainsaw in the background, just deal with it. But would it surprise you in the slightest if the world government really did have a straight-up king? There was a shadowy ruler that everybody has to answer to. Even the Gorosei have to answer. Like, the Gorosei know of his existence, and the Gorosei have to answer to him or her, but then the Gorosei are set up as the true rulers. Would it surprise you if they were lying about the whole thing? If, after the Reverie concludes, the true king walks out and he just sits down on the throne like it meant nothing all along. It was a hollow lie to begin with. I think that would be totally a thing that would happen, given how the world government hides things and lies and all the propaganda that they spread. So, yeah, don't hold the Iron Throne, or I'm sorry, the empty throne to a high regard, because I think it's going to be total bullshit. But yeah, Stelly really wants to sit on it, and I'm kind of hoping he does. Off with his head! Alright, so we now cut back over to the plaza, the socializing plaza, where everybody was gathering, and we said, oh my god! What is going on here? This is pretty dark. Okay, so a giant slave just came out of nowhere and is manhandling Shirahoshi and is dragging her away while Charlos is there like, oh, I want a mermaid! Big mermaid! Now, look, we've already seen this happen before at Sabaody, like the world nobles just walking around like they own the place, but this is in the middle of Marijua. This is in the middle of Reverie that this is going on. This is literally how these world nobles are raised, that they could just get anything they want whenever they want. I thought Charlos was going to be at least a little bit sly with this. No, he literally was just seeing Shirahoshi from his room, and he's like, Papa, I want one, I'm going to go pick her up. And then he goes down into his freaking slave dungeon like, you, slave number 3, come with me. And he just charges into the castle and is like, grab her, I want her. And he does, and no one can do anything about it. Now look, here's the thing. I know it's already been set up that the world nobles can do pretty much whatever they want, whenever they want. But there has to be a limit to this. And when I say there has to be a limit to this, what if what they were doing, like, okay, let me throw an example out for you. Okay, let's say Charlos came out of nowhere and he's like, you know what? Cancel Reverie this year. Everybody leave. This is my castle. Do you think they would have let that dumb shit do that? Do you really think he could just like that? Like, there has to be a limit. It's not absolute power, all right? He can't come in and just say, Reverie's over, everybody leave, because the Reverie is such an important thing for the entire world government. They would have to send somebody to try to calm him down or something, right? But when it comes to just a situation like this where, a princess of a kingdom is just literally being manhandled by a giant and then God knows gets done to her by a world noble with a freaking runny nose, like, that's perfectly fine. They can't lift a finger, not for a lack of trying. You have Vivi and Rebecca there crying. You have Leo rushing at them. Leo and Sai both try to go and stop them. Sai reaches a point, at first, Sai was kind of like holding back Rebecca, because Sai is like, no, if you attack or if you do anything to disrupt them, then Dressrosa's just gonna get annihilated. And then Sai gets to a point where he's like, you know what, screw it, and he just charges at them. Leo does too, and they actually get deflected. Leo gets grabbed and then tossed to the ground. Not an easy feat considering how fast Tontadas are. And then you see Sai get kicked in the face by a mysterious figure who turns out to be Rob Lucci. The Cypher Pull I Just Zero are on the scene, which I also guess means that they're not the assassins that got sent to assassinate Doflamingo and impel down. Oh man, I wonder who they sent. So does that mean there's an assassin that the world government employs that are even more deadly than Lucci? Because Lucci was a pretty deadly assassin, you know? An assassin that's stronger than Lucci. Spawned him. think they said spawned him. Okay, I think they'll be alright. But yeah, not just Rob Lucci, we also have Stussy there as well, looking very dapper in her tie, I must say. And something about Stussy I just found out yesterday is that we actually share a birthday. Yeah, April 24th. You know how all the One Piece characters have, like, birthdays on the calendar that people always ask Oda, like, can this character's birthday be this? And Oda's usually just like, I don't care. But he eventually made a calendar. I was always kind of bummed out because my birthday it was never shared with anybody. But now Stussy and me share a birthday, so, who else do we got? We also got Kaku! Yeah! Kaku's back in action with a new top hat, so he's looking pretty fleek. I like the white in general more than the black aesthetic of the CP9. I like the white look. And we already kind of knew that Kaku was a member of the CP0 because we've seen him in like well, in the anime we saw like a shadowy image of him. In the manga, it was still heavily implied that it was him that Lucci was talking to on the phone back in Dressrosa because he talked in a manner very similar to Kaku. So we always kind of figured Kaku was there, and he was the second strongest member of CP9 right after Lucci. So yeah, him being around is not a big deal. We also see the dude, one of the dudes that appeared at Dressrosa. Remember, these were the original 3 members of CP Ija0 that we saw, and we still have no idea who they are. I thought that the guy up front was Spondum because he had a similar hat, but at least the way the wiki classifies them all, we still have no idea who these guys are. So maybe it was one of these 2 dudes that went to go assassinate Dofi. I don't know. But yeah, they're there at the Reverie as well, and Rob Lucci, he does his thing where he's really good at it, where he totes the line of the world government. He's good at, you know, being a dog of the government, but at the same time he wants to do what he wants to do. Like, for instance, during Ennie's lobby, he listened to pretty much everything Spondum said, but he like bent the rules a little bit. He knows Spondum is much weaker than him, and then Lucci really wanted to fight Luffy, but at the same time he's like, you know, Lucci, come with me! And Lucci's like, okay. And he's like, you're gonna protect me above all else! And he's like, alright. But at the end of the day, Lucci ended up, you know, bending the rules and fighting Luffy. You see how this goes down. So, yeah, Lucci's going on and on about how, you know, the world nobles, they are gods. You cannot reason with a god. And a god does not need to follow logic. They just get what they want. It is only natural. Lucci is just toting the party line. You know, he has his kind of his own agenda, but he's really good at pretending, you know. So everybody's getting very mad about this because they're like, are we supposed to just let them take Shirahoshi away? And basically, yes. Neptune shows up out of nowhere and is about ready to punch them square in the nose, and he has this tearful moment where he's remembering his wife, Otahime, and he's like, all the stuff that Otahime worked for, every little thing, all the signatures that she got in the journey to Marijua, and all they're trying to do is just trying to get the fishmen and the humans to live together in harmony. But upon seeing this, upon seeing his only daughter being captured by a celestial dragon, and nobody is attempting to stop this at all, Neptune can't handle it. His rage can only be contained so much. He's not going to let them get off with his only daughter. So he's about ready to just punch them right in the face and like, after this, we'll retreat back to the sea and deal with the consequences. I'm sorry, Otahime. So he's about to land a punch, but he is stopped at the last minute when another figure appears behind Sharlos with a freaking club and just BAM! Right in the freaking face! Oh, yeah! I think Oda just wanted to draw Sharlos getting punched again. Don't you think? Let's compare the scenes. Hell yeah! So now, obviously Sharlos gets probably knocked out and he's not going to be waking up for a while. And everybody at the moment is just frozen. Because they're like, holy crap. Wapple's in the background crying like a baby. He's like, oh, I didn't want to be involved in this. I'm not involved in this. What are you doing? So everyone's just kind of stunned until they saw the person that actually hit Sharlos. It was, in fact, yet another Celestial Dragon that we've seen already. Celestial Dragon Mjosgard? I guess that's how you pronounce it. The M and the J together just threw me for a loop. We don't really have a lot of words in English that have an MJ sound, you know? But yeah, Mjosgard, he's there, and he was actually the world noble that crashed on Fishman Island 10 years ago. Remember, he apparently, if you don't remember the story, just really briefly, his father, which looks like an aborted rat clone, Was like, all the slaves were taken away back to Fishman Island because Jinbei became a warlord, and it's really just bureaucracy, my son. But the way Mjosgard saw it was like, oh, all my slaves were taken too. So he literally makes the journey all the way down to Fishman Island to reclaim his property. And by the time he arrives there, the ship was just destroyed by a sea king and all the terrors that lurk under the ocean that they weren't prepared for. Mjosgard was the only survivor, and he comes out with a gun just shooting random fishmen. He's like, "Help me, you damn fish bastards!" Bam, bam! And Otahime actually protects him, throws herself over him when his own former slaves are about to shoot him. Otahime gets shot. Eventually, Mjosgard is healed on Fishman Island, and then he's brought back up to the surface with Otahime, and Otahime that's when she meets with the world nobles and up at Marijois and the Gorosei, and that's when they begin their relationship with the humans, right? However, something that we didn't get to see, and something that is now stated, is that Mjosgard has turned around a new leaf. He is no longer the person he used to be. He states that I am actually human now because of Otahime. So remember, Otahime traveled with Mjosgard on his ship all the way up to the Red Line and then all the way up to Marijois. So in that time, Otahime was probably like nursing him back to health, because he was still probably banged up, and he was just like, look, this is the way it is, and the way you're viewing the world is like this way. It's really messed up. Don't you care about this? Some influence, something that Otahime did or said to him really messed with him on that inner level, and he realized what he was doing was wrong. And here we are 10 years later, after he's had time to think about it, he now declares himself a human, and then he states that I want to help you as much as I can. And we also get the full name of Mjosgard, Don Quixote Mjosgard. So, this is really interesting, not only for the fact that Mjosgard is related to Doflamingo, but if you also remember, the only other world noble to come out and act like a decent human being, or act like a human being at all, was Homing, Doflamingo's father, Don Quixote Homing. And now we have another member of the Don Quixote family, Don Quixote Mjosgard, who's stating to have a declaration of humanity as well. I have to feel, though, that a lot of the celestial dragons, because of the way the Don Quixote family constantly acts, you had the whole issue with Homing, and then you had the whole issue with Doflamingo, they might not actually, they might be like the lesser of the Tenryubito. They might keep them around, but at the same time, they're probably like looking down on them. That could also maybe be a reason why Mjosgard had a change of heart. Maybe after he got back and everything, and maybe he heard people making fun of him behind his back because he was helped out by fish or something, and he started to think like, man, yeah, they are kind of assholes, and the Otahime and all the fish, they were nice to me, and these people are dicks. Yeah, wow. Huh, maybe Homing had a point. So that's the case. Also, if you want some nightmares tonight, Doflamingo is related to this thing. Oh. Maybe it's like adoption or something. Not ready to throw that out there, but yeah. So you have Mjosgard there ready to help out, and I guess as long as a celestial dragon is attacked by another celestial dragon, I guess it's okay. There's not going to be an international incident. There's a loophole there basically, and he also commands the giant to lay off of Shirahoshi. So he'll drag Charlos away probably, and they won't have to worry about this because at least they have somebody that's on the inside that's helping them out now that actually has a decent heart. Don't know how the other Tenryubito feel about Mjosgard, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so with that being the case, oh, no, wait, no, I thought the chapter was over. No, we have one more scene of the chapter. We cut over to the, in another room in Pangaea Castle. Like I said, this place is giant, so plenty of rooms in there. It's called the Room of Authority. You must respect my room of authority. But anyway, we have the Gorosei there, the 5 Elder Stars, the highest authority in the world. And I guess it was also implied earlier on in this chapter, I missed it, maybe not expressly stated 100%, but implied, and you also have to keep in mind with translations and everything, that the Gorosei themselves are celestial dragons. Doesn't really surprise me very much, and also the fact that I kind of always thought, like, there are the celestial dragons that are pompous and don't do much of the decision making, and then there's other ones that do. If the Tenryubito and the Gorosei, I mean, if the Gorosei are Tenryubito, that would make perfect sense that they were that group. The rest are just rich people sitting around all day swiggling wine, but when it comes to the Gorosei making actual decisions, they're the learned members of the Tenryubito. Once again, though, I don't know if that was 100% like stated, but implied certainly. Okay, so now we cut over to this room of authority where we see all 5 Elder Stars gathering, just kind of looking over paperwork and everything, and also a figure arriving in the room that is covered in a cloak. And they're all just kind of complaining to the figure. They're like, you know, we're in the middle of Reverie right now. You know, we have a lot of stuff going on. We don't have time to deal with you, but because of who you are, we let you in. We kind of gave you special treatment. So come on in and talk about what do you want to discuss with us, basically. And so the robed figure approaches and states, yes, I want to talk about a certain pirate. Oh my God, it's Shanks! Ah! 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 Oh, Shanks has a 700 million berry bounty. These are not accurate. Don't think they're accurate. People are looking at this like, Roger had a 1.5 billion bounty. No, he didn't. They just made up the numbers, but... Okay. So, this is like... Okay. This is a little bit better than last week, okay? This is about as hype, maybe even more hype, because I don't really know what happened last week, but at least I have an angle I can take this. Okay, so Shanks arrives in the Holy Land, a place that no pirate is supposed to even set close to 100 yards in, and yet here is a freaking Yonko nonetheless, Red Hair Shanks, who was a member of Roger's crew, just standing in the room of authority, where the 5 Elder Stars literally make all, like... Shanks could, like, kill everybody in this place, like, right now. Like, I'm assuming the Gorosei are badass, too, but they're kind of getting on in years. I mean, Shanks, if he really wanted to, just... Bring it on, Gorosei! 5-on-1! Okay, I need to calm down. Alright, okay. So... he wants to talk to them about a certain pirate. All right, now, I think everyone's immediately going to jump to Luffy, because, of course, Shanks has a connection with Luffy, but let's try to think outside of the, let's try to think outside of, this here, okay? So, let's go with Luffy first, okay? He could be talking about Luffy. I don't think so, but let's just say he is. I could at least see the angle there, where Shanks, I'll give it to you, is one of the more reasonable Yonko. In fact, he is the most reasonable Yonko. Like, you can't see the Gorosei holding an audience with just any of the Yonko, like Big Mom. They're not going to hold an audience with Big Mom or Kaido or Blackbeard, certainly not Blackbeard. But Shanks... you know, he has the position, and he's strong, and you do not mess with him. But he's also a rational human being that he's not going around, you know, he's not really causing a lot of as much turmoil as the other Yonko are. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, look at what Blackbeard's doing. Going around the ocean, attacking random towns, stealing devil fruit powers. Kaido and Big Mom, they're trying to gather the road poneglyphs looking for the One Piece. Shanks has no interest in the One Piece. He's not trying to find it. He's just kind of there with his powerhouse, and he's just like, basically leave me alone for the most part, but if you do something that I hate, or if you get on my nerves, or if I want to go somewhere and do something, I'm gonna do it, because I'm red-haired in Shanks. So, I could see him contacting the Gorosei and being like, hey, look, I have something important I want to talk to you guys about. Even if you say no, I'm still going to show up at your front door, so you might as well just make this easy. And the Gorosei are also rational human beings, so they're like, okay, so just make sure you're not seen. Hence the cloak. Hence why Shanks has to walk around with this cloak on. Anybody even sees him in Mjosgard. Can you imagine if Morgans saw Shanks at Mjosgard? Holy crap. That would sell, that one issue would sell so many copies, they wouldn't have to worry about any money anymore. You know, they would have enough money to start their own Yonko crew if Morgans saw that, and he got that story out. But anyway, Shanks arrives, and let's just say he wants to talk about Luffy. I can imagine that conversation might be something like, okay guys, listen, I know Luffy caused a lot of trouble recently in Big Mom's territory. You know, he's got the 1.5 billion berry bounty. People are calling him the 5th Emperor. Just to let you know, maybe he's still starting out. You know, he still doesn't really know that much about the world in the full scope. I'm just letting you guys know, you Gorosei, be aware. I am his ally, so don't mess with him, or don't unfairly go after Luffy. Don't, like, if you try to mobilize the entire Marines to take out Luffy, I'm gonna get involved. So I'm just letting you know about that. So that's the conversation I could see Shanks having about that, basically involving, because Luffy is now the 5th Emperor. A lot of people might, like the entire Marines might come after him, and Shanks is maybe aware, like, Luffy wouldn't be able to handle that much. So basically just letting them know whose side he's on. But I think, more realistically, Shanks is here to discuss Blackbeard. Alright, because he tried to do this with Whitebeard. It's kind of a mimic of what happened back then, kind of a mirror when Shanks, not allied, but when Shanks arrived on Whitebeard's ship and had the whole discussion with him. But this is even more impactful because it's the frippin' Gorosei, right? So this time I think he's going to sit down with the Gorosei and he's going to say, look, I tried to warn Whitebeard about this, and he did not listen, okay? Because he was stubborn, that's who he is. But seriously, we need to talk about Blackbeard, all right? I'm like the only one that is aware of how like, see this scar, okay? I'm red hair f***ing Shanks. Not a lot of people get to scar this chiseled face. Blackbeard scarred this face, alright? So I could see him warning the Gorosei, like, look, honestly, don't worry about Big Mom. Don't worry about Kaido. That is just a distraction. You need to focus everything you got on Blackbeard, okay? We need to take him down. Shanks might even be trying to ally with the government just for this one instance. It's like, look, I get it. I'm a Yonko. You're the world government. I get it. But you don't understand. If you let Blackbeard keep doing what he's doing, the world government, gone. The rest of the freaking Yonko and the rest of the pirates, gone. He gets the One Piece. He becomes the Pirate King. He rules the entire world. He has the power to do that. Alright? He might even be able to access the ancient weapons or something. Do not underestimate him. I will work together with you guys, maybe just this once, just so we could squash this cockroach before he gets too big, and then we could go back to hating each other. You guys are all about the status quo, and the world government, 800 years, blah, blah, blah. You're all about that? Then we need to take care of him right now, and then we can deal with Kaido and Big Mom and Luffy and me. Like, you can deal with that later. We need to deal with this now. I think that's the discussion he basically wants to have with them. Maybe not. Maybe going with, maybe allying with the world government. Maybe that's going a stretch too far. Because how would they... I mean, you might be able to do that under cover of darkness without people finding out about it, but that might be kind of risky. But at the very least, I think Shanks is going to discuss Blackbeard and going to talk about how dangerous he is. Shanks might have found out new information about Blackbeard. He might have had an informant network focusing on them in the last 2 years. Be like, this is the stuff he's capable of. Maybe he already has an ancient weapon. Maybe he can do all this crazy stuff with devil fruits that nobody else can do. There's a serious threat here. I think that's what it's going to be about. So yeah, get ready for that. Now, unlike the Straw Hat in the last chapter, I could see this scene being expanded upon next week. And hallelujah, Oda, you didn't give us a break next week. At least I hope not. Like, halfway to next chapter, be like, by the way, Oda, he can't do it. I'm like, But so far from what we're aware, no break next week, cutting right to it. My heart can't take much more of this, guys. I mean, I've been standing here for, I know I'm going to have to edit this down, but I've been standing here for an hour already talking about this. Oh, but you know what? I'm still hyper because it's Reverie. It's so awesome. Oh, okay. What do you guys think about this chapter? What did you think about Mjosgard's reintroduction? What did you think about the discussions that Garp had with all the Vice Admirals about this rocks or locks? What did you think about Kaido and Big Mom's like pass together and they're allying together now? And what did you think about Shanks pulling the shadowy figure in a cloak discussing things with the Gorosei and what they will discuss and which pirate they will be discussing in this meeting? Thank you for watching, everybody. I love y'all. Moving on to Reverie Part 4. and then part 5, and then part 6, and then nobody's going to get to part 7. The entire fan base, by part 7, if anybody is still alive, they're going to be in comas, and they're not going to be able to read the series anymore. So, yeah, that's about right. Easy on the old heart there, Oda. I'm getting on in years. I'm 25. I'm a quarter of a century old, man. My heart can't handle much more of this. All right. Later, everybody.